Regulation E metagame is starting to ramp up and things are slowly starting to stabilize, and I thought it'd be a good time to go over some of the Pokemon I think currently aren't getting enough usage that are fantastic into the metagame. So if we're going to talk about some of the Pokemon I think are really good into the metagame, we kind of have to understand first what is really good. So this here is just an example. This is basically the week 1 qualifiers for the World Cup, just the usage stats here over the first week. Now, obviously, looking at these stats here, I don't think they're like 100% accurate as to what is like really good and what isn't. I do think maybe the regional is a better showcase of that. But our friends over here at Victory, they did post this up here, so I thought, you know what, this is, you got the top 20 mods rather than say like the top 10. It's also got their usage rates, their win rate, so we can kind of just use this as a general look at things here. So when you look at the metagame, right, the big 3 right now are Landorus, Fluttermane, and Iron Hands, and technically, if you want to say the big 4, also Ogerpon. So Ogerpon technically is the most used mod in the format, but obviously, as you see here, Ogerpon, Wellspring, and Flame here are both split up, both at about 27%, which would obviously put them up to about 54%. And then when you add in the low usage, say of the Teal Mask and the Stone Form, it would obviously make it the #1 mon. But really, they are the 4 Pokemon primarily kind of dominating the metagame. You've got some fantastic Lumons as well out there, like Rillaboom's really good, Heatran's fantastic, Tornadus is obviously a great Tailwind setter. Chen Power is always just really good. The Urshifus are both really solid. Chi-Yu is like a really good mon as well, especially when you pair it up with things like Fluttermane. Amongus is a mon that is, I think, incredibly high on this list, and it's a mon we'll definitely touch on today. Moon is another kind of underused mon, but I think, everyone kind of knows what it does. Gambit's definitely been on the rise. Its win rate here, honestly, is really low. I think if you have a look at the regional, it was like incredibly high. I think there was like 2 placements in the top 4, which is really good. And then, so on, basically just some really, really good mons there. So, now that we've broken that down, we kind of had a look, I guess, at like what's good. The first Pokemon I kind of really want to touch on here is Baxcalibur. Now, Baxcalibur I think is really good for a couple of reasons, right? So this mon obviously, is immune to like Will-O-Wisp. It can eat the fire attacks as well, which is, pretty damn good. So I shouldn't say it can eat the fire attacks because obviously it's a neutral hit. But, for example, if a why am I blanking? An Ogerpon Herflame, goes for a fire attack. You get the +1 attack, which is really good. Not to mention, one really cool thing this one has is like this absolutely absurd attack stat, right? This like attack stat is absolutely insane. And it actually, with an Ice Shard, has the ability to threaten a one-shot on a Landorus. So I think no bulk Landorus takes like minimum, it's like 109 to this, which is actually like kind of crazy damage. And because of that, I do think there is like quite a few sets Baxcalibur has. In saying that too, like Dragon typing, obviously fantastic into the into the what's it called? All these Ogerpons here, obviously. Obviously it allows you to eat things from like Rillaboom, pretty decent into Iron Hands. Like it obviously is forced to go for the Drain Punch, but Terra enables that. Fluttermane is obviously one of the scariest matchups, and Landorus is kind of like iffy. If it Terras into like flying, you can't really one-shot it with Shard, but like if it goes Terra flying, then obviously you can one-shot it with things like Icicle Spear, Icicle Crash and whatnot. So I do think this one has quite a few different sets it can run. I think AV is okay, but probably not the best right now. I would say either go Clear Amulet, which is the set I do think is maybe a bit better, or you can also go Loaded Dice. Now, I'll go over quickly both sets here. If you're going like the Loaded Dice set, obviously you want Icicle Spear, and you kind of want Scale Shot. And then from here, obviously Protect always, and then the last move, it kind of comes down to whatever. You can go Ice Shot if you want. Dragon Dance is always a good option. So is Swords Dance, right? So Swords Dance plus Scale Shot is kind of insane. If you can kind of get it off, like if you get like +2 and then you get like a Scale Shot off, like this mon is just going to start one-shotting everything. And then in terms of Terra, I do think Terra Poison is probably this one's most consistent Terra. It not only does it give you a Fairy resist, it also gives you a Fighting resist, which is like, again, when you look at the metagame, right, you've got a Fighting mon here, a Fairy mon here. Obviously, it does give you a weakness to Landorus, but again, you're a mon that really threatens Landorus, and I do think that's why Baxcalibur is, like, at least in my opinion, really slept on. Like, this mon's ability to deal with Landorus is really good, and that also kind of, like, leans into the Clear Amulet set I was referring to, right? If you go in Clear Amulet, you're probably obviously going to drop this one for probably Ice Crash, and then also in this slot here, too, you'd be going for the Glavis Rush. Now, I do think Glavis Rush is like really, really cool. I just want to quickly check something too. This guy, does he get Spinner? Okay, he doesn't get Ice Spinner. I didn't think so. So yeah, on a set like this, I definitely think Ice Shard. There are other sets as well. Like I think Terra Ground EQ is actually also like pretty decent on this mon, especially if you do pair it up with things like say Tornadus. But I do think this set here is like pretty good. And the thing I really like too with like the Crash plus Rush set with Shard is you can use this mon to its like best of its abilities in my opinion, which is this really bulky attacker. It loves to be paired up with things like Amongus, Clefairy, like Redirection, like even like Ogerpon's really good with it as well. It loves like things like Tornadus as well, just speed control. But yeah, I do think like Baxcalibur has just like a fantastic matchup into what's really good in the metagame. Terra Poison obviously is like a fantastic Terra on this mon, and it's so naturally bulky that like even once you like start investing a bit of bulk into this, it's really good. I probably should have mentioned too, if you're gonna run the loaded dice set, like you probably want to go like max speed. The reason for that is at +1 you outrun non-booster Flutter Mains and Iron Bundles as well. So keep that in mind if you do want to run back Scarlet. But yeah, this guy I do think is definitely one of the best anti-meta ones we have. Now, speaking of really good ice types, we did see it back there, but the guy Iron Bundle I do think is actually a really slept on mon. So you see here, it actually does have relatively high loot usage here at 19, pick 19, 9.7 usage, but that win rate at 44%, I do think is actually incredibly low. And the reason I think Bundle is so good is one, obviously you threaten a one-shot on Landorus, you threaten, one-shot on Ogerpawn, you can obviously threaten a lot of damage on Rillaboom. Now, it's not a mon that necessarily obviously wants to eat the Grassy Glides, but the good thing about it is it can actually eat, I believe Adamant 252 still doesn't even carry a Bundle because its natural physical defense is so high. But Iron Bundle has like a really good matchup into a lot of the metagame, and it also does just fire off some really good attacks. Again, like Lando doesn't want to eat the Freeze Dry, Ogerpawn doesn't want to eat Freeze Dry, Rillaboom doesn't want to eat Freeze Dry, Fluttermane also doesn't want to eat Ice Shard, Fire Ogerpawn here does not want to take the Hydro Pumps, Heatran doesn't want to take Hydro Pumps, if he goes Terra Grass, it doesn't want to eat the Freeze Dries, Tornadus doesn't want to eat an attack, like Rapid Strike doesn't want to eat Freeze Dry, Hydro Pump, into Chi. Like there's a lot of mons where like this water ice coverage is like really good into it. Now there are a couple sets you can run. I do think like the options normally do kind of lean between like Sash and Booster, obviously. If you're running with something like a Alola Ninetales, you could also run, like Choice Specs, I think is really solid as well. But I do think Booster Energy is the best, most consistent set. Again, Terra, it's kind of between Terra Ice and Terra Ghost. I think if you are going with like Ninetales, Terra Ice is really good. Because Specs Blizzard's absolutely like, they're painful off this one. It does a lot of damage. But I do think like Booster Ghost is like really good. Your core moves always on this mon are always going to be Icy Wind plus Freeze Dry. It just hits so much of the meta game. Like it also gives you like speed control as well. Like going up against things like Scarf Lando, for example, just being able to like basically nullify its Scarf, I think is insanely good. Because basically Icy Wind plus any chip is going to pick up that Landorus KO. This mon also loves Protect for obvious reasons. It's a very squishy mon, especially on the special side. If there is a Flutter Main on one side of the board, you want to make sure it basically can't get an attack into you. And then final move here, it really comes down to what you want. I love Hydro Pump. So I shouldn't say I love Hydro Pump. I hate Hydro Pump. It's why I was saying I wanted this one to get Scald. But I love having water coverage. So Pump is really good. If you want to play it more, supportive, Encore is also incredibly good because this one will outspeed everything and basically just, Encore you into say a Protect, and then your game's kind of, really rough. But yeah, Encore and Pump are really good. I do think if you're going to go the Hydro Pump route, there's a cool set I'll show you guys here. So basically the standard set for this guy here is obviously just Timid 252, 252. You can obviously start like playing with a bit of bulk if you want, like, like playing around with it. My biggest issue with Bundle is like, it is just so squishy that like, it's not eating anything on the special end anyway. It's like maybe dumping a little bit into HP is like, okay, but it's still really squishy that like any, half decent attack is probably just going to KO it anyway. But the set I have personally been loving is this set right here. It actually allows you to do quite a bit of damage. You get a little bit more HP here as well. But you still get the speed booster while getting additional damage. The only issue with this set is you actually speed tie Jolly Max Speed Moons, which is like kind of sad. But also at the same time, I think it's pretty good because, you'll outspeed... I don't want to say you'll outspeed a lot of Flutter Mains because I do think a lot of like the booster Flutter Mains these days are going for, like along that like 189, 190, 191 range. But a lot of the time, if they see Booster Bundle, they're probably too scared to stay in because like, damn, the guy's going to outspeed me. But obviously then you get into the mind games and, you can also see whose booster activates first and stuff like that. So there's definitely something to keep in mind. But yeah, Iron Bundle, dude, it is just like one of the best speed control mons, especially on like, more offensive teams that want to be fast. Freeze Dry is insanely good into the meta game. Encore is like really good at like forcing people to not click Protect, which is like really good for pinning things. Especially next to like, mons like Ogerpawn, for example, which I think this mon pairs up incredibly well with, because, you don't necessarily want to like, protect in front of it, right? Because if you get encored into a Protect and then all of a sudden a Fire Ogerpawn is just like ripping through your team, it's not a fun time. And then obviously Hydro Pump is just Hydro Pump. When it hits, it's insane. Now, the next guy we're going to talk about here is actually Earthworm. Now, my reason really for putting Earthworm on this list is because Landorus is so good, but not to mention like its physical defense stat is like so high. And really the only one of the Ogerpawns that can like really like threaten this mon is the Fire Ogerpawn. But this mon also just loves going for things like Terra Fire anyway. Like, because, the fire, like, you've already got the immunity to the ground types. It also pairs really good with, like, Landorus, because it allows you to go, like, your own EQ Lander, rather than, say, like, the Stormy Tantrum set that a lot of people are running. And then, its move being Shed Shell is just insane. Like, if you can pass this into something in the back, like an Ogerpawn, like, like a D-Knight. D-Knight's a really good combo with it as well, I think. Yeah, the mon can just, like, put in a lot of work. It also has access to things like Iron Defense Body Press, which, again, I think Iron Defense is, like, really good right now. The metagame is just, like, so heavily favored to these mons that are what's it called, like really physically defensive. Like again, you look at this. Oh, sorry, wrong one there. If you look at this, right? Physical, special, physical, 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 special. Technically special. Tornadoes doesn't do that much damage though. Physical, physical, special does nothing. Physical, physical, special, physical, special, physical, special, physical. Like it's like 70% physical, right? Like high physical defense is just really, really good right now. Body press obviously does a lot of damage, and then you have things like heavy slams to like threaten our Fluttermanes. It's a great user of the Citrus Berry as well. If you're gonna play a mon like this, kind of just like max that out, and then from there, I don't really think you need any points in attack. You probably like put one there, and then probably just like max out your Spadef, right? If you really want it as well, you could even just go like something like that, maybe. Yeah, I think that's what we'll say, right? Something like that, yeah. This one, I think it's just really slept on. Like, Shed Tail is good. Its stats are great. Steel typing is always good. Yeah, this one is this one's pretty decent, not gonna lie. Now, the next guy here is, look, it's a mon I absolutely love, and that is Lamora. Now, I've been saying, like, God, I can't spell. I've been saying for quite a while, especially like going back to Reg C, Reg D. I think Lamora is like a really, really slept on mon. And it really is like the special attacker we need, right? Like, as we just said before, it feels like physical attackers are so dominant right now. Lamora is like a decently bulky mon with a decent speed tier that hits really freaking hard. Like, this stat is absolutely absurd. And Power Gem right now feels really good. Like, Power Gem into like, Terra Flying Landos feels nice. Obviously, into like Fire Ogreporn's really good. Tornadoes, it's really good. Like, you threaten a one-shot on a lot of mons with that. Sludge Bob, I do think is just like also like another really good mon because, like, again, the Ogreporns are everywhere. Like, you're just gonna one-shot the Ogreporns with this move. It's like a really, really strong move. Energy Ball coming off Terra Grass is also really good. Like, again, with things like, potential Terra Water Ogreporns, obviously things like Urshifu Rapid Strike, it's just good to have Energy Ball. And then in the final slot, obviously, like Earth Power, there are things like, again, the Fire Ogreporn, which you're probably going to Power Gem, but then you got like Heat Trends and whatnot that you want to kind of go for the Earth Power into. So I do think this mod puts on a lot of offensive pressure. It also has access to, obviously like Spiky Shield. Its ability, Toxic Debris, is also really good, especially for taking out things in the back, like, Chien Power with Sashes. And just other sash users in general. Also, like, really good at like slowing down things like, say, Iron Hands or Rillaboom that are looking to like kind of pivot around their fake outs. Also, potentially like Hisuian Arcanines and whatnot that are trying to pivot around and get their extreme speeds off. But yeah, I do think this one is like really, really slept on. The sets you can run, I think Sash is not bad. You could go like Sash plus Max on like a Tailwind team. I do think like bulky specs is probably the way to go. That's at least how I like to play it. Like, I like going, something like around like that 170 mark, run up that Modest Nature. Maybe you pair it up with like, Icy Wind plus, Tailwind, and then you can just like run something like this, yeah, and then just kind of like invest, what you think you need into bulk, and it's pretty decent, yeah. I think this mod really slept on. Its Terras, obviously, Grass is really good. If you also like are looking for like something that isn't Grass, Terra Flying is also really solid. I have quite a bit of experience with Terra Flying myself. I love it into things like Landorus. Like, obviously, Grass is really good for resisting water, resisting ground types and whatnot. But Terra Flying also definitely has a niche, especially when you want to pair it up with things, like maybe your own like Earthquake Landorus. I do think that can be pretty damn good for that too. Now, speaking of rock types, we're going to talk about Hisuian Arcanine. Now, for me, like, Hisuian Arcanine, like, it kind of feels like it shouldn't be on this list just because, like, obviously it's a pretty high usage mon, right? We see it here at 18th usage. I honestly think this one should be higher. I think with Tornadus being like so popular, Hisuian Arcanine is like one of the best anti-Tornadus leads because, like, not only do you like resist everything outside of like Landorus, but you also like force Landorus to go for like a Stomach Tantrum. You can also like play around, right? Like, there are things like you can just like go Terra Rock Slide. It also has E-Speed, which is really good. It fires off a really strong Flare Blitz. And yeah, like this mod, it's like Fire Rock just feels like such good coverage right now. Like, again, if you look at this, Rock Slide, Blitz, Blitz unless they go Terra Water, Blitz, Rock Slide if they, what's it called? You Rock Slide it anyway. Like, Heat Train, yeah, kind of annoying. But like Rock Slide, doesn't love Urshi Rapid, I guess. But like Terra Fairy is the thing on this mon. I do think Terra Fairy is like the best set as well. But yeah, look, this mod also has like access to a lot of different sets, right? Like, you can go like Rocky Helmet, you can go Assault Vest. I personally love the Banded sets, because obviously, I'm a bit of a hyper aggressive player. I like Banded plus Intimidate. Rockhead is also like really good as well if you want to go for things like Head Smash. But yeah, just like Flare Blitz, obviously really good on a mon like this. Rock Slide, like, they are your two absolute core moves, I think, on like any set. It doesn't matter what set you're running, you go Blitz, you go Rock Slide, yeah. Also, Extreme Speed, especially like on a set like this, is really, really good. You also get like, I think you get Play Rough, right? Am I crazy? You don't get Play Rough. Why do I think you got Play Rough on this one? I mean, anyway, it still gets CC, it gets Crunch. Like, it has a lot of offensive moves, man. It's like, it's not like the most bulky mon ever, but like with these stats, you gotta live anything that isn't super effective. And even then, like with Intimidate, you can live like a lot of super effective attacks because like really outside of like what like Bundle, is there any other like I mean I guess like what like maybe Milotic and maybe Empoleon as like water types are decent, but yeah, really like there's no like real good special attacking water types here. Like you have a look at that, there is not a single one outside of Bundle. So yeah, but Hisuian Arcanine, really good mon, dude. I think this is like, if you're like a HO player, like you kind of want this for like anti-HO. And yeah, dude, I think it's just like really good. I think like even like the bulky sets, like it can run Howl as support, it can run Will-O-Wisp. Like, dude, there's so much Hisuian Arcanine can do, and I think it just matches up so well into the meta. I do think it's really criminal that it's not like higher usage than it is. And on this list of mons like I'm going through, I definitely think Hisuian Arcanine is probably the best of them all. Now, bouncing off that, going from like a, you know, a pretty hyper offensive mon here, we're going to be talking about kind of like an anti-Trick Room mon here. That's kind of how I look at Farigiraf. I do think this mon's really good. Armatail's fantastic, you know. It blocks E-Speeds, it blocks Sucker Punches, it blocks, you know, Grassy Glides. Really good for all of that. But right now, I do think Trick Room is in like one of the best positions it's been for like basically the entirety of Scarlet and Violet. And because of that, I do think like a Trick Room Imprison set on this mon is really good. You don't even necessarily have to run Imprison. Like I've seen people just like run Trick Room plus like Nasty Plot. And then you just go for like 2 moves. You just go like Psychic or Side Shock, whatever you want. And then you can like run Hyper Voice. But I do think Dazzling Gleam is probably better. Just because this mon, I think, oh, we don't shiny. I do think Terra Fairy is like the best on this mon. In terms of items, there's a bunch this guy can go, right? He can go like things like Citrus Berry. It could also go like Rocky Helmet. I think you could even go like Mirror Herb if you wanted. Probably not worth it. I think Citrus is probably just better. Also, I forgot to mention too, Armatail blocks Fake Out, which is like really good. This one also has like deceptively high special attack. If you just go something like this, then just like invest in bulk, you still do a really good chunk of damage. Like Psychic's really solid. Dazzling Gleam's really solid. It's a mon that can stop Trick Room from going up. It stops priority. Just has so much utility. There's so many things this guy can do. I think Giraffe is just like fantastic. Like I really think having a mon that just like instantly says like, hey, you can't set up Trick Room in my face easily, and then also having a mon that it's where it's just like, hey, you can't E-Speed me, you can't Sucker Punch me, you can't Grassy Glide me. Like you kind of just like pin them and say like, hey, like are you really gonna click that like Sucker Punch when like I could have a Giraffe in the back? But yeah, I think Farafrig just fantastic, dude. This guy has so much utility. I really love this mon. Now carrying on from Trick Room here, we have the guy Sinister. Now Sinister is, again, it's a relatively high usage one, right? You see it here. It's sitting at like what, 17 with a 50% win rate. I do think this mon is, I don't want to say it, I definitely think it's a little underused. Just because like how much utility it has, right? Like this mon can be a Calm Mind sweeper, Nasty Plot sweeper. It can be a Trick Room mon. It can be like a anti-Trick Room mon. Like it gets like Trick Room Imprison, for example. It gets Strength Sap, so it's like a fantastic support. Its signature move in Matcha Gotcha is like obviously broken. If you want to run this thing like offensive, it has Scald, it has Shadow Ball, it has Hex. Like there's so much this mon does, dude. It's like got such a deep bag. Like I don't think I even said like has a Rage Powder as well. So yeah, there's so much what this mon does, dude. It's like kind of insane. It is also like one of the best answers to Urshifu Rapid Strike. Like its ability to just like switch into either of its stabs and eat them is really good. Its stat spread is really nice. Like again, similar to our friend Parafarig, like this guy does not need much investment at all to be like a really good special attacker. You know, its HP stats kind of average, but it's happy to max it out. Its defense is really good, and its special defense is obviously not that bad. And then on top of that as well, its speed stats like kind of decent. And yeah, honestly, like similar to Farafrig, this guy, it's just got such a deep bag. Like for me, like mons like this are just like so good because it has so much utility. Like it can fill so many different roles on your team, and like as I said, like I like mons like this for like the ability to like get up Trick Room, and then you bring in like an Ursaluna or something, or like a Hisuian, not Hisuian, Blood Moon Ursaluna, and then people are like, damn, we gotta get rid of the, you know, the Blood Moon Ursaluna, and then all of a sudden this guy's just like, hey, I dare you to go after the Blood Moon Ursaluna. I'm gonna sit here with my +2 Matcha Gotcha and kind of swoop through your whole team. Yeah, it's really scary. And then like items, dude, it gets like Citrus Berry. Obviously you can hold like Mental Herb. You can also hold Rocky Helmet. Dude, there's like so much this mon does. Like if you're crazy too, you can probably go like Life Orb, right? Like Life Orb Matcha Gotcha probably is like really solid. But yeah, dude, Sinister, like such a good mon, dude. Anti-Trick Room. It sets up your own Trick Room. It can be like a redirection support. It can be a special sweeper. Yeah, dude, Sinister, really freaking good. Now, piggybacking off a strong grass type is the guy we hinted at the start, Amongus, dude. Like, seeing Amongus here at 12 is actually insane to me because I feel like, especially at the regional, which I do think is more of a, you know, a better example of like what's good right now. Amongus usage was like down. There was like so few in like the top 16. And the thing with Amongus is like the second no one actually runs Amongus becomes good. Because the second, you know, no Crystalias are running safety goggles, Arcanines aren't running safety goggles, the second all that kind of stuff happens, This guy with his like citrus berry, which by the way runs citrus berry over rocky helmet. You know, Ogerpon's too good for it. But you know, this guy with citrus berry, Terrifier, all of a sudden he starts sleeping everything, and it's really fucking annoying. And it's got rage powder, it's got pollen puff. You know, Sludge Bomb is also pretty good with the Ogerpons. Leaf Storm is like always still solid. Protect's okay. Dude, this mod, like the thing with Amongus, right, is, as I just said, right, the second people stop prepping for Amongus becomes good. That's all I'm going to say, boys. You know what Amongus does. It's been one of the most popular mons for the entirety of Scarlet and Violet. Honestly, like, if you need a redirection mon, run Amongus. This guy is a sleeper. Like, I'm telling you, its usage seemed high, but people aren't prepping for it like they used to. Now, going into like my last two here, these is kind of my two of my more like stretch picks here, and that's actually Maros one. Now, Maros one I do think is really cool for quite a few reasons, right? If you look at the stats here, obviously its attack stat absolutely insane. It also has like a decent speed tier. It's a mon that like kind of wants to be paired up with like say like with Tailwind or like Icy Wind support. But its HP is really good. Physical defense is good. Special defense is kind of bad. But this one can be run in a lot of different ways, right? I think Adamant with like Tailwind plus Icy Wind is probably really good. If you're just running like Tailwind, I think, you know, obviously Jolly's like really good here too. Oblivious is fantastic because it stops taunt from, sorry, not taunt, it stops Intimidate from our friend Landorus. And you know, similar to what we said earlier about Black Caliber, if you can block his Intimidate and click Ice Shard and one-shot him, you're gonna have a good time, man. Gonna have a good time. Icicle Crash, obviously also like really good on this mon. I don't think it gets Ice Spinner, does it? Nah, I don't think it Ice Spinner, but it gets Earthquake. Earthquake really good right now. Protect really good right now. I think this mod is like really good when paired up with like Tornadus, right? Like if you can get up the Tailwind and then just start spamming EQs, like you could even run like something like Banded, right? Like Banded EQs are like insane off this mod. Terra Grass is like pretty decent on it as well. Basically something just to like help out with some of your bad weaknesses. I've seen Terra Grass be good. I actually think it also gets Trailblaze, right? Yeah, Terra Grass Trailblaze is what I've seen in the past. I think it was like Life Orb Trailblaze, something like that. Yeah, and then you just like maybe like drop Shard for Protect or something. But yeah, this mod has like a lot of offensive utility. Like Ice and Ground is like really strong. Again, Ice into like Ogerpons is really good. Ground into like a lot of the things out there, like you know, Fire Ogerpon, Heatran. It's really good into Golden Go. Like there's a lot of ones that don't want to eat an EQ off this, especially when the attack stat is this high. But yeah, you know, I'm not gonna say too much about Mamo. It's a very like niche, interesting pick. But I do think it matches up incredibly well into like a lot of what's popular right now. Now, the final one here I'm going to touch on for today, boys, is a mod I've actually spoken about a little bit in the past, and that is Galarian Zapdos. Now, in this metagame in particular, one thing that is king is flying types, right? The reason Landorus is number one, and for anyone who doesn't know the common set for Landorus, it is Choice Scarf Terra Flying, like 99% of the time. It is the best flying type mod in the format. It is also why I think Roaring Moon is like getting a lot more play now, because flying type, it just feels really damn good right now. And because of that, like you look at this, like the flying types we have, D-Knight doesn't have a good flying stab. Roaring Moon kind of has the flying for acrobatics. Landorus has the Terra Flying. You know, Tornadus has Bleak Windstorm, but like let's be honest, Bleak Windstorm is good like 80% of the time, and even then, like I'm sure I click it all the time and I miss all the freaking time. It's not consistent, and because of that, you know, having a mon like this that has Defiant, which by the way, you know, really good when the top mon is Landorus, you know, spamming out its Intimidates. You've also got Hisuian Arcanine, you know, obviously out there with Intimidate as well. You've got things like, you know, is Cresselia not on this list? Dude, Cresselia's not top 20. That's actually wild. But you know, Iron Bundle clicking things like Icy Wind, Tornadus, you know, might chip you with a with the Bleak Windstorm, get the minus one speed. Fluttermanes, a lot of them are running booster speed as well with Icy Wind. It's just really good. Now, obviously this one, let's be honest, there's no one eating Icy Wind. But I do think things like Terra Fire on it are also like really good. Obviously that gives you something to help tank out the Icy Winds. It puts you in a position where it's like not an amazing Terra for fighting Landorus, but a lot of the time you are going to outspeed Landorus anyway and throw it in a one shot with things like Brave Bird, right? A +1 Brave Bird off this mon is absolutely insane. It is also one of the best Scarf mons in the format in terms of like its speed tier. Like if you look at the common Scarf as well, if we look here, Landorus runs Scarf, obviously Urshi runs Scarf, Chiyu might run Scarf, it's not common. Golden Go might run Scarf, it's not common. Urshi runs Scarf, right? Like they're the Scarf mons. None of them are over 100 base speed. So Jolly, you know, max on this mon is actually pretty damn good. You outspeed everything you need to outspeed. Brave Bird's obviously really good. I think Drill Peck is like also like a pretty decent like secondary option. Obviously we get things like Close Combat. We also get things like Thunderous Kick. So, you know, its stab moves are definitely there. Like there's a lot of options it has. And then in terms of just like, you know, other physical moves it has as well, it gets access to things like Knock Off. Obviously Stomping Tantrum's pretty good. U-Turn on a Scarf set as well is obviously really solid. But yeah, I think this is like just one of the best, like, not one of the best, it's one of the most underused Defiant mons right now. Like we see Gambit getting so much usage right now, and like this is one that physically it can tank it. It's, you know, its defense is decent. 90s across the board is pretty decent. And you know, its attack stat being 125, really solid too. Hits a really nice speed tier, and yeah, I do think this is definitely one of the most underused Scarfers in the game right now. And I definitely think on the right team, Garian and Zapdos can put in a lot of work. Anyway, boys, that is it for my my list here of the underrated, or you know, the anti-meta mons, if you will, for Regulation E. You know, so far, obviously, you know, we're only 2 weeks officially into the format. But yeah, look, I really want to know what you guys think. You know, tell me, is there anything that you think I missed off this list? You know, I'm sure there's some other sleeper picks that maybe I didn't think of that you guys could obviously tell me about. You know, let me know if you think maybe, you know, some of these mons shouldn't have been on this list. You know, I know obviously things like, you know, Iron Bundle, Hisuian, Arcanine, even Amongus, they're all like really good ones. Obviously, they're all in the top 20 usage. So maybe they shouldn't have been on this list because they're not like technically anti-meta. But I do think they are, you know, pretty criminally underused, at least in my opinion. So let me know down below, guys. I'm really looking forward to seeing, you know, hearing what you guys say. God, I suck at English when I'm doing outros. But yeah, anyway, guys, I've been here rambling on long enough. We're almost pushing half an hour. So yeah, catch you in the next one. Peace.